I'm going to introduce today the business wills. Just to remember what it's for is to look after the business partner in a relationship, but more importantly for a family. Whether we're known as a director, a shareholder or a business partner, we first and foremost, we have a family that we wish to provide for, and we provide from them by our business. The reason why it's called an option is a capital gains tax thing. We'll not worry about that. So company wills are sometimes known as crops option agreements. Here are the four: partnerships, limited companies, LLPs, family businesses, absolutely. Especially where there are parents and children involved, siblings, other family members and their shareholders or working in the business. Planning before an event will ensure a smooth running of a business in any eventuality. The biggest issue, of course, seems to be setting aside the time to do the planning. Anyway, hopefully this is not the case with yourselves. It's a situation where we have, let's call it a 50-50 arrangement, be it directorship, shareholder, partnerships, whatever. Keep it simple for me. So 50% directors, and they have a family will, and the unfortunate event means that the spouse then owns half the business. Questions are asked, can the business continue? Is Mrs. able to do anything? Does she know anything about it? Would she want to? Would the surviving partner want to receive a phone call on Monday morning saying, okay, what do we do? These are all suppositions and definitely not what would be the preferred scenario. Even more horrendous when the business shares aren't equal, and not a good scenario either. If there's no will in place, probate can take even longer to work out who in fact are the recipients and owners of the 50% share. Again, we say that hopefully it's not your scenario, simply because the director B now has to work and do all of the work himself and run the business and give half the money away to, could be your wife and your kids, to be looked after. His benevolence will probably run out very quickly, and he'll have to decide, look, I can't continue, I need to fold the business, start up as XYZ. And unfortunately that does nothing for the value that he's built up over the years. Not a good scenario, as I say, hopefully it's not the situation. Nowadays most companies have had some advice to look after the eventuality, but please don't turn away just yet. You've probably forgotten the details, and here's a reminder, and some of the drawbacks. Standard wills, more popular with financial advisors and some accountants, is to have the company set up and pay for life assurance on each partner. And it's off the shelf. It's an arrangement which is a one-size-fits-all. It is adequate in many instances, but not always. And again, what happens there is very simply is that it's now coming back to you. Yep. Death occurs, life assurance policy is sitting owned by the company, and they decide to agree an option, which is the wife takes the money and the other director or shareholder takes the business. Everybody would seem to be happy. In fact, able to look after herself and her family, which is good. And the previous partner, director, they now own all of the business and they don't have to worry about someone coming in and having a share. Let's look a little bit forward from this, however, because now that the money is in your wife's estate, it's at risk from the usual suspects. And this is where we always go back to asking the question, if you own something, someone can possibly take it off you. Remarriage and divorce can scoop out a half of it. Creditors can try to take it all. You can be asked to pay for something that others get for free. And the tax man was always there with his benevolent hand looking for his share. This could be the difference between your children having their share blown sideways. And this is a very big issue. But let's now look at you're the surviving director or the surviving partner. How does it affect you? Because now you own all of the business, you're immediately at risk from all of the income tax. You might say good, but there is a better way of doing it. Of course, should you get divorced or fall foul of anything else that might be a problem, you now own all of the business, and all of the business is at risk. Instead of having a bit of preparation, the situation then goes, you say, look, I'm going to sell the business. Good. That might be your option, might be your decision. It might be worth some money. You decide to sell the business at that point, you will pay capital gains tax on the whole value of the business. You bought the shares at £1 each. What are they worth today? Also, you decide to run the business on a death. There's no business property relief, and it's all potentially subject to your inheritance tax. Our solution, with a little bit of preparation and a little bit of digging deeper, might look somewhat different. In this case, what we would look to do is that each individual, each director, would have their own life insurance policy. They would each own it themselves, which is not owned by each other, not owned by the company. And the reason for that is because we would set up a will where the money would be directed to protect eventuality. And at the same time, we would set up a shareholder trust. Policy A and Policy B, Director A, Director B. Either or, unhappy event happens. In this case, yep, the money is set across and the 50% share is now placed into the shareholder trust. Life insurance proceeds are now put into the family business trust. And the implications of that are, number one, the wife has the money sitting in a trust and it is protected from, as we said, all the eventualities beforehand. You're owning a half of the business and controlling the other half of the business. So that half is protected, the shareholder trust assets. Why would we want to do that? Big difference in taxation. Don't want to get too detailed, but for example, you could make use of having a family, maybe a wife, children who are basic or non-taxpayers. Let me show you how that might work. Income balance, so let's say, look, I've been running the business all my life. I want to keep it going, obviously. You know how it works, you know how good it is, and we would hope that's the case. So in this case now, you're owning half the business only, and you're in control of the other half because you're in fact the trustee within the trust. Makes sense. You continue to trade and generate income. Half the dividends or half the profits that you would pay for your own personal income tax. The other half goes into the trust, and the trust pays the rate of tax applicable to trusts, which aren't very tax efficient, to be fair. So on that basis, what you as the number one trustee would decide is, let's make up some potential beneficiaries, flexible trust. And that would be yourself, your wife, partner, your children, etc. You'd ask yourself the question whether they're personal rate taxes. Some might be nil rate taxpayers, some might be basic rate taxpayers. And in that instance, then you would mandate it, because literally what you don't want to do is be filling out tax returns every year on who gets what. But by generating half of the income to yourself, which may well keep you below a higher rate tax rate, or at least within a certain threshold, the other 50% going into the trust can be then mandated because you will decide to mandate it, because you are the trustee. You probably don't need me to tell you how much of a saving that can be. As everything else we said earlier, what you can do is decide to pay for children's education, university fees, whatever. So why don't you set aside the time to future-proof your own business? Get in touch with your financial advisor.